I'm ready to continue the outer border on this project. First, I'm going to get rid of that boundary. Then I'm going to do a relocate. I have the needle sitting at the very end of this last repeat that was sewn. I'll right click and tell it to relocate. Shift Alt to one point. Turn on my end snap. Just let it snap to that end. Just click it. Click yes. And then it will be relocated. And get rid of this boundary over on this side. Don't need that. So the needle is sitting right there. The next thing I'm going to do is put in a boundary. This is a boundary around this triangle. Click several points along the base of this triangle. Then I'll click up the side to the point and then down the side to back to the start. And I have my boundary in there. What I need to do now is go and put in the pattern over here. I never can remember which one of these works, so I'll just try it. I'll scroll over to my P2P icon. I'm going to click the start point of this and click the end point, and it is the correct one. All I need to do is zoom in and do an adjustment. And I'm going to start my little timer up here. It's kind of handy keeping track of how long I work on a quilt. So that looks like it's going to quilt out just fine. So now I'm going to quilt this and move on and do the row of blocks. Okay, I have that triangle quilted with this pattern, and I'm not going to quilt any of this until I finish the row all the way to the other end. Then I need to put in part of this and put the triangle pattern in right there like that one is. So I'll quilt the blocks and then I'll come back and quilt this after I quilt this border on the right. I've decided I'm going to work on this border, and that way it will let me roll the quilt a little bit so that I can do the next row of blocks easier. So my needle is sitting right there at that end of that repeat and the starting of this repeat. So I'm going to just right click somewhere, get my menu, relocate, shift all to one point. I'm going to use that point right there. Now I have it relocated. We'll put in a boundary around this. So I can see where the pattern is going to fit. So I'm just going to make my boundary. And I'm going to quilt as much of this boundary this border as I can. I'm going to go ahead and baste in the side here. Get as much of this done as I can get before I roll a little bit. So go up and look at my pattern and see how much of it's going to fit in there. And I can quilt this repeat and this one, toggle them as unsewn. And I can also quilt this repeat, toggle it as unsewn. So it looks like it's going to fit fair, but I'm going to do some adjustments now. I'm going to move this pattern a little bit. I'll go get my end anchors. I'm just going to use this arrow to change it. This one right there, cycle pattern anchor type. And I can cycle through the anchors, get to the end anchor. I'm going to make sure the end point is not, the end snap is not turned on. I'm going to move this away from the border boundary just a tiny bit, like that. I'll get this one. Now I want the end snap on. Snap it to there. I think I want to, and I'm going to move this one out just a small bit, turn off the end snap, move it out there. Then I'll get this one, turn on the end snap and snap it to there. Now I can see how this is going to fit, and I can see what I need to do is I need to select this pattern and this pattern. All right. It's not wanting to cooperate very well here. I need to end snap this back over there and move this back a little bit. And snap that. Okay. I'm going to escape out of that. I want to adjust this just a tiny bit. If I can get this pattern, turn on the anchor, the side anchors, the blue, and I'm going to decrease this a little bit. Right there, use that wedge. Then I'm going to get this one. I wish that handles didn't change like that all the time. And I'm going to hold down the control key so I can move, get rid of those boxes. And grab this one. See, I want it to kind of line up right there. Can't quilt that one yet. So this looks like it's going to quilt out pretty good. Go ahead and save my project. And I'm just going to stitch this. Here's one thing it's always a good idea to do. You can see where this says it's all located. I'm going to grab this by using the end anchor. And I don't want to relocate because I want to see in relationship to what I've already relocated how this is. I'm going to grab this end anchor. I'm going to move this right where the needle is located because that's where the stitching ended. Then I'll grab this one and do the same thing, but I can turn on the end snap and let it snap to there. So now I know it's connected, and I'll just go and look at everything. And yes, it all looks like it. This is the way I want it to look. So I'm going to press the escape key to get out of that. Then I'll just go and quilt this repeat. I will work on the large blocks, and I have the needle sitting right at this point. I'm going to do a relocate. And you're going to shift all to one point. Use that point right there. Have the end snap turned on. Click yes. Has my patterns all realigned around that point. And I'll show you. This is quite time consuming because I have this 1-inch square that's around the 10 by 10 block. And what I have to do is start in like this. I'm going to put a boundary. This is around the outside of that 2-inch. I'm just clicking around this. That completes the boundary around the outside. Now I'm going to do the inner part of this 2-inch frame. Just going to basically click the 4 corners, except that first 2 clicks, I did those purposely. And the reason I did that was I didn't want to have a long line here showing that this is a boundary. So what I have to do now is put this diamond pattern in here. So I'll just use the upper center button and I'll scroll. See, I've already just pressed it one time and now it's to the P to P diamond. I'll put that in all 4 of these sides. I'll 5 clicks, it'll take me over to the P to P, which is set on pattern. And I have to click the lower right once to select that, then that puts the first point. After I do this, I'll have to go and adjust everything to fit. There's just no easy way to do this. Click the middle, lower the stop, and then I'll click the upper right and the lower right to exit. All I have to do now is go and adjust these patterns to fit in that frame. And sometimes, see, I have to move these around a little bit. I'm going to select that one, make sure the end snap is turned off. I'm going to move it a little ways away from there and center it as best I can. Then I'll grab this one, and that's not going to line up the way I want it to. Grab that one, turn on the end snap, snap it to it. Go up to this corner. That one doesn't need much adjustment. I will adjust it a little bit. Grab this one, make sure the end snap's off. I'll move it. I want to get that one. Move that out of the way. And go turn the end snap on and snap them together. There we go. And grab that one, turn off the end snap, move it centered. This one, turn on the end snap, but I need it to be a little bit right there. See how that is. Grab this one, turn on the end snap. Yeah, that'll work. Check this first one. This needs to be moved a little bit closer. I'm going to make it a little shorter. Grab this, end snap it, and I want to move it a little closer there. Okay, I have it all adjusted. Now I'll just quilt that out. Okay, there are 7 blocks in this, and I have to do 7 of these frames. And it would be nice if I could just do this and move the frame to the next block. But unfortunately, it doesn't work very well. I've tried that. It's better just to do each block. So I'll do all of these blocks with this frame, and then I'll come back and I will put the pattern in. I have to do a restart because I ran out of bobbin thread. And this is where I ran out of bobbin thread, is right there. So I'm just going to place the needle where I want to kind of start stitching. And I actually want to back up a ways back here. I might even go here on this part and stitch down and then that way. So we'll see what happens here. I'm just going to use my press the middle lower center button and the upper right button, and that's going to take me through the icons back to the restart icon. Then I'll just click the lower right button and it's going to do something. It's going to go to the wrong place. I'm going to tell it to that I want to pick a new point. The lower left button lets me do that. I'll click that. Then I'm going to go over and put the needle kind of where I want to start. Click, use this point, that's the lower left. Then the upper left will let me go back. So I'm going to go back a few stitches and click the lower right button. It says quilt, and it'll take a stitch and tie off, and then it'll start doing the quilting. So here we go. So sometimes you'll have to do a restart, and it's a good idea to know how to do that. Now it's down here and it says okay, cut the bobbin thread. Well, I don't really want to do that. I'm just going to click OK, and it should go on. And it took a single stitch, and it's going to do a tie off, and it's going to continue on up this side. So that's how you do a restart. Okay, all of the frames around these blocks have been quilted. Now I need to go back and put these patterns in the blocks and quilt those out. And use the upper center key, and that will let me select my pattern. This is the pattern I'm going to put in there. And I'm going to just scroll over, start putting that in. Now I have to be fairly precise as to how I do this. And then I will check it. So I'm going to click on this corner And then I'll click on the next corner, hit the stop, and I'm going to go and put another pattern in the next block like this. I'm going to go back and I'll show you how I want to check these. So I've just placed the machine where the needle is in this corner, exactly where I want it to start. And just see how precise I was in setting that. I'll zoom way in and just check it. Well, that's pretty close right there. And I'll go and check the other corner. If it wasn't exactly where I wanted it to be, I could just move it. And that doesn't look too bad, but I'm going to move this a little bit. Select the pattern, and the end anchors are on. I'm going to turn off the end snap, and then I just move in here, hold down the control key, so when I move that, the box will go away. And I'm just going to move that end point right into place, just like that. That's how you can do that. I'll check this next one. Sometimes it's hard to select what you want. And if it gives you trouble doing that, okay, I got it. Change my anchors. I want the end anchors. So I'll move my needle over to the spark point. That's where I want it to start. See how close it is? It's pretty close, but it's a little off. Hold down the control key so I can see this. Okay, it's not what I want. I got it, finally. I'll hold down the control key so I can see it. That looks good. I'll go and check this end. This is a lot of, takes a lot of time to do all of this, and that needs to be moved a little bit. Again, I'll hold down the control key to make the box disappear. There we go, right there. And I'll stitch these two out. I have gone ahead and put all of these other patterns in these blocks. The reason why I did that is because I've stitched all these frames, so now the quilt top should be stabilized, and I would not have a problem stitching these because of shrinkage. So I'm going to go ahead and just stitch all of these out. All of these blocks are all stitched out, and you can see up here how much time I have in this project now, 21 hours and 21 minutes. So before I quit for the evening, I'm going to go to this outer border, and what I want to do first, I'm going to just move all these boundaries, get rid of them. Now I should be able to hit the L key and it should select this other boundary. Yeah, yes, I just hit the L key and it selected it. I'll delete it. Here is where the needle is located, right there. So I'm going to relocate this to that point right there. I'll right click, and it doesn't matter where I right click. I'll just go relocate, shift all to one point. I want to click on this point right there and click yes. Now it's relocated that to where the needle was actually located, and it says okay, It's right there. So evidently things are not quite lined up the way they should be. And I can check that and see if I need to move things around. And see what I have here. Okay. See, I've actually placed the needle right there. So what that tells me is the fact that some of these things are not in the right place. So I'll deal with that at a later time here. Right now I'm going to put in a boundary so that I can stitch in that pattern in this triangle. Just put in this boundary here. And then I'll make sure I have my pattern selected. And I'm going to need that one, I think. And I'll just go over here. I'll select that. And that should be in there if I've selected it right, and it looks like I have. So I'll go and adjust this. I'll just zoom way in so we can see what we're doing here. And it all looks pretty good. The only thing I'll have to do is I will have to move some of these things around out of the way, that if they're not really in the way, but they look like they are. So I'll deal with that in a little bit. Okay, this is the end of part 2 of this. I'm going to shut down for the day and I'll finish this tomorrow. So if I go into this icon here, the large, or this quilt group rather, I have all of these rows in there. So I only have one row left, and that's this. I have one more row of these, and I'll do that tomorrow. Then I have the bottom border, which is already selected, and down here I'll have to finish these sides and then finish this bottom border, and then I'll do that on another video, and just finish this quilt up tomorrow, I hope. You can see how much time I have, 21 hours and 46 minutes. So it takes a while to do this the way that I am doing it. And I don't do very many like this, and I don't want to do very many like this. It just takes too much time. I want to put the quilt on, quilting edge to edge, get it finished, get it over with, and move on. So that's the end of this part 2. Then part 3, I'll finish it up tomorrow.